Yeah, so this is pretty much the first podcast that we're going to be doing. We're going to be talking about our films and that for the week. So, Ian, what was your week like this week? What have you been watching?
I've been watching a lot of stuff recently, having a bit of time off, so I've been watching a bit of Travolta at the moment, actually. I've been going through a bit of a Travolta phase, as you know. A few months back, I really wanted to buy Grease, and I bought Grease, and I love that movie. He's just the epitome of man.
Oh, really?
Travolta. He is. Just like you've not seen his hair.
Yeah, but I wouldn't necessarily give that as the reason why he's the epitome of movies.
But his hair is every reason to be why he's the epitome of man. I love my hair. And I love his hair. Basically, I always thought he was just this kind of 70s kind of like hero. Like he was the big thing in the 70s and 80s, and then he kind of came back in the 90s with Pulp Fiction. And I was thinking, why is he so popular? I don't really understand. Obviously, apart from Grease, where he made so much money for Grease. And I thought, obviously, I'll go buy Saturday Night Fever, which is the one that got him the role for Grease. And it's a really weird film because it's not entirely what I expected it to be. This, obviously, well-known band called the Bee Gees did the soundtrack and obviously made loads of money from it because it was probably one of the first films ever that kind of consisted of having a song-based soundtrack to the film and not an actual score. And it did so well. The Bee Gees made so much money from it.
Well, so the whole thing's just based on an actual album rather than a story in itself?
Basically, well, there is a story, and it's kind of not what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a group of guys who go to a club every Saturday and they just, party. It's Saturday Night Fever. They go out and they get dressed up.
It's like a real camp version of The Warriors or something like that.
But basically, it's so much more than I thought it was going to be. It's an 18-rated movie. I never thought it was. There's drug use. There's rape. There's a rape scene in it, which there's deaths. There's love. There's confusion. There's just everything that you could kind of think you could put into a movie. Saturday Night Fever has it. I literally just thought it was dancing, and I was okay with that when I bought it, which was kind of disgusting in a sense. But John Travolta kind of plays this kind of reckless teen who just works. He works in this kind of hardware store, and all he wants is to earn his money and to blow it every Saturday. Just going to the disco club, buying alcohol, buying drugs, getting drunk, and just hanging with his friends and dancing. He's a really, really good dancer, and he encounters this kind of mysterious new woman at his club that he goes to every Saturday night. And she's a really good dancer. He's so used to people not being able to dance, and people love him. He's like a god there. It's kind of a really weird kind of situation where he's this normal guy, just works in a hardware store.
Yeah.
But as soon as Saturday night comes along, he's a different man. There's a scene where he's in his pants, and he's got a poster of Bruce Lee up on his wall, and he does all his kind of karate kicks, and he wants to be Bruce Lee. He wants to be this kind of cool character in that time. And then he puts on his aftershave and he puts on his shirt and he starts dancing. He's a completely new character, and I think John Travolta does that so well. It was a really interesting watch, and especially the kind of covers that it kind of went over. I mean, like the rape and drugs, and it was a really weird film to watch with John Travolta in.
Is it relatable though? Like, did you find that you could actually connect with any of the characters?
I think John Travolta, in a case of someone around his age, what he is, like kind of like he's like 20, 21, kind of like I think it's definitely relatable. I think because a lot of things haven't changed from that time to now. People of that age kind of don't know what they want to do with their life, do they? They're kind of stuck where they think, I could just keep a low-end job and get enough money just to go out and party and spunk it every Saturday night. That's exactly what he does. He spends it on drugs and drink and picking up girls in his cars and having sex and acting recklessly and just going back to normal life and working in a low-end job during the week.
Yeah.
So I do think it's relatable. He's very confused with what he wants to do with his life.
Yeah. So I suppose then, from what I hear, you've not only just seen Saturday Night Fever, you've stuck with the John Travolta, I suppose, anthology really more than anything else, yeah?
Oh yeah, I'm a big fan of Brian De Palma, obviously, and I watched Blowout, which is
nice.
a really interesting movie. So Brian De Palma's a great director. He did Scarface, Carrie as well. So he's a big kind of player in like the 70s, 80s, and even 90s with Carlito's Way. Not so much nowadays. He's done like the Black Dahlia, but not much else since. But Blowout is really, really interesting, just because of the nature of the film, because it opens up really interestingly. It actually opens up as a kind of a short horror movie.
Oh yeah.
Which is really cool, but then you have this horror movie which is really, really well shot, and it's very 70s in its style with the music and the kind of tension that it builds as well. But then it kind of cuts to John Travolta and this other guy who's a producer, and you actually find that John Travolta's a sound guy. He inputs sound for horror movies like screams and glass breaking and tiptoes and walk-ins and stuff like that. So he works in this kind of B-movie kind of production where they make all these horror movies. So he gets told he needs to create some new sounds for this movie that he's doing for this producer. So he goes out in the middle of the night and starts recording with his microphone some of the wind moving. And while he's doing that, he sees a car crash. You hear a kind of a bang, and the wheels blow out. Sometimes called blowout. The wheel of the car blows out, and it crashes into the river. Mm-hmm. And obviously, immediately he goes to help him. So he runs down, jumps into the river, and notices the driver's dead. But there's a woman at the back, quite a young woman. I'd say like kind of early 20s, who's Nancy Allen, who you probably know from RoboCop, the main woman. Mm-hmm. And he breaks her out, saves her, takes her to the hospital. She's very dozed, doesn't really understand what's going on. What he then realises is that the man in the car who has died was going to be the next president of the United States.
Okay.
So now what kind of happens is that he finds out he gets kind of involved in this massive conspiracy that this vice president, who was probably was going to be the president, he was like the running of the president, not a vice president, he's kind of in the running, but he was going to be the president, he was the utmost favourite, and he was kind of the perfect guy. He hadn't done anything wrong, but all his kind of PR people and the people that looked after him, all his kind of general affairs and stuff, didn't want the case that he was actually having an affair with this young woman. So if that would have got out, which John Travolta wants to kind of get out because it's the truth, that would have completely tarnished his reputation as an upcoming president. So you kind of want him to die respectfully, basically. So he knows it's a conspiracy. He wants to get it out there that,
So it's a conspiracy film.
It's basically a conspiracy, and he kind of gets obsessed. Basically, he wants to get it out there, and he keeps getting told, "No, it didn't happen. It didn't actually happen. Don't get involved." Obviously, while this is going on, you've got John Lithgow in it, who plays
great stuff.
John Lithgow plays this kind of contracted serial killer. So he gets hired by the people who looked after the upcoming president to kill Nancy Allen. Basically, killing off these women who were involved with the upcoming president, who could potentially blow out.
Yeah.
So it ends up him trying to get the tape out because he recorded the actual accident that happened.
Yeah.
But not only did the wheel kind of blow out, you find out that someone shot out the tyre. So it turns from a conspiracy.
Are you at the moment just pretty much just giving the whole story away?
Yes, basically. But it's just so much to kind of explain and kind of get over what it really is, because it's so many genres in one. It opens up as a horror movie, and then it goes into a conspiracy movie, and then it goes into a kind of murder mystery, and then so much more. But it works so well. Even though you've got all these different kind of genres, it just keeps you so interested throughout the whole film. And John Travolta's actually very, very good on it. And he doesn't kind of play his typical kind of, character that he would be in a movie, where he'd be this slick guy, with the slick back hair and I dance, you can't turn me down. He's just this kind of guy. He's just an average guy who makes sound clips for terrible B movies. Yeah.
So it's almost like McGonaghy's transformation from proper chick flick type person into all of a sudden being in Interstellar and all of that lot.
And winning Oscars.
Absolutely, yeah. Completely different change of direction.
Now, you saw, scarily, you only saw Silence of the Lambs for the first time.
Yeah.
This week. So it won loads of Oscars. It's probably one of the greatest films that's ever been made, personally and kind of universally as well. What did you think of Silence of the Lambs? Especially because you've watched it about 25 years after it was originally released in 1991. I think.
Yeah.
So what do you think of it?
No, I thought it was amazing. Yeah. It completely lived up to expectations because I wasn't really 100% sure what to think going in. I'm a big fan of that type of genre anyway. The film, I mean, it's so hard not to go into something like that without people's expectations influencing what you're going to think of it. So from that point of view, I kind of felt I was going to be a bit biased heading in anyway. But I think I was just lucky because at the time where I watched it, I kind of just sat down, I put it in the player, and I was just like, right, let's just give it a go. Why not? And thankfully, it's one of those moments where you put in a film and your intention at the same time as kind of watching it is to kind of pop around and do other stuff. But luckily, within the first 15 minutes, I was just completely hooked. I was done. I was ready. I was watching it. I was completely mesmerised. All of a sudden, my feet were up. The laptop was closed, and I was 100% just focused on this film. And it was fantastic. It's great. It's got immensely perfect pacing to what it needs. There's no point where you're kind of thinking, oh, this is slowed down, or you're kind of getting a bit bored, because they're always throwing different directions, different things at you that's kind of causing the audience to look at things in a different way, in a different, giving you a different perspective. You can definitely see how it's influenced so many films from that point onwards. Like when you say, like, compare it to things like The Bone Collector, Seven, all those type of films have just been massively influenced by Silence of the Lambs, because it's just a good adaptation. It just kind of, it's on the right lines, and I think it's considered, when you Wikipedia it and all things like that, it's considered one of those adaptations that's actually better than the book. So yeah, it was great. Anthony Hopkins is brilliant in it. Jodie Foster, he's fantastic, and it's just one of those rare ones that you kind of, I can't really believe that I waited so long to kind of talk about it and to actually and eventually watch it. Because it was just so good.
Do you think that Anthony Hopkins' performance was like, he's only in the film for about 7 minutes.
Oh yeah.
But he won Best Actor.
Yeah, but that was the best. I think in some ways that was a cool thing about it, because I went in there with this expectation. I knew he wasn't going to be on the screen for that long, but equally I knew that it was going to be amazing. So you automatically go in there and you think, well, if a character's not on screen for more than 10 minutes or anything like that, then there's only really logically two things that can happen. Either one, that character dies, or two, they're fleetingly in it. They are the shock twist. So therefore, I was kind of watching the film thinking, oh, okay, yep. So he's going to be the twist at the end of it. Like, that's my expectation going in, especially with that format of knowing how long, for instance, someone's on screen for. But actually, as obviously the story goes on, I was pleasantly surprised. There's a decent twist to it. Anthony Hopkins, even though he's not on the screen for that long, is terrifying. Really, it's a very, very good portrayal of an intelligent serial killer, I suppose, is the best way. I was very pleased with it. It makes you kind of want to sit down and appreciate more of Jonathan Demme's work in terms of like Mancunian Candidate and Philadelphia and all those things. So
Philadelphia is an incredible movie, and it's quite interesting how he is kind of evolved. He doesn't kind of stick with kind of one genre, does he? Jonathan Demme. He kind of he went from Silence of the Lamb. Well, I think was it Philadelphia first, and then Silence of the Lambs first, and then went to a very touching subject of the kind of the age controversy and stuff with Philadelphia, and then obviously, like you said, with the Mancunian Candidate with Denzel Washington, which is also a brilliant movie. But you went from watching one extreme of one film of genre with Silence of the Lambs to more of a modern, different genre of music with Begin Again.
Oh, absolutely.
Was this your kind of movie? Was this your kind of movie? If we explain to people who don't know you love chick flicks and romantic movies and stuff like that. Begin Again is kind of, does it fall into that that stereotype of chick flick romantic genre, or does it kind of break the mould and kind of give that genre a little bit of a fresh air, or is it a completely different genre? Is it something completely different we've never seen before?
Well, it's difficult because it actually kind of verges. It's not that chick flick cliche that everyone kind of goes into it thinking. It is a softer film in terms of what it's after. Like it's basically just you've got Keira Knightley, who's I suppose the main character in it, and she's a songwriter that's basically living in the shadow of her boyfriend, who's Adam Levine. But she is responsible for really great songs. She obviously can write stuff, she can play the music, and she, through events and that which happen throughout the film, all of a sudden it works out that she is, she bumps into Mark Ruffalo, and then Mark Ruffalo is this like has-been music producer, and it's essentially just how they kind of go about making this brand new album for an independent record label, and it's structurally it follows the same pace, same direction as most of these type of films take, but it's just a nice, well-rounded like film. Like you can't walk away from it. It's so gentle that there's nothing offensive about the film at all. It's got one of those. It's got really nice like lyrics that you can like Norah Jones type songs throughout the whole thing, where you just you can sit back and you can relax to them. Obviously, there are some moments where it's like, oh yeah, but it's a bit. But this is all about my personality. I'm getting all my personality through my words, and it does sometimes feel a little bit oversaturated with that at some points. But by the time it doesn't follow the same path that you would expect, which is quite nice. It gives you a different ending that kind of doesn't fall upon, as I mentioned earlier, like that cliche chick flick type thing. I mean, it's far from it. Previously, obviously, you've got John Carney, who bought us Once in 2007, which is now obviously the stage play, or other way around. I can't remember which way around it is, but that was a story within itself. It was just a case of just two musicians who meet up, who have the similar life experiences, and it just ends up just being a nice little story. It's almost like you just so happen to be the fly on the wall in that situation, rather than living it with them, and that's what I quite liked about it. It was like a guilty pleasure. It was so easy to watch.
Comparing it to obviously the critics really liked it, actually got really good buy-ups at the time. Now, is this something you could easily recommend to someone just to watch? Because I know we have, obviously with that kind of genre we have different views and stuff like that, but I don't really like those kind of movies. Would you just say watch it? Would I enjoy it? Would you recommend it to people and say, actually, if you don't enjoy those kind of movies, you'd enjoy this, because it does just sound like a lot of other movies. I think, is it a case of just you have to watch it to understand it? It's not. Yeah,
I think so. I think you've just got to. I suppose the way I see it is, fortunate enough, this is one of those films that you just put in a DVD player, and then at the beginning they just show you the similar types of films within that genre, and straight away you're shown films like Daniel Radcliffe's What If randomly appears in front of it. So you're kind of force fed, and then from the point at which you put the DVD into the player, you're force fed the genre. So you kind of know what's going to happen throughout. You kind of get a feel for what it's going to be. I mean, the film's called about beginning and it's about musicians. You kind of think it's only going to really go one way.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those nice Sunday afternoon films that you can just press play, and it's just completely inoffensive. And it's just so nice. It's nice to see. I mean, strangely enough, as soon as I'd watched it, I was straight online. I was on iTunes downloading the album. It was fantastic. It was just so easy. I can't. I was. It was just a nice film. It was a tough one to beat, because I also watched some crap, but it's in that week anyway.